Hello, my name's Philippa Waller.
My name is Penelope Waller, and we are two of the directors at 4D Human Being.
And welcome to the 4D Human Being podcast. What's it all about, Pen?
It's all about your personal and professional relationships. It's about your communication skills, how you lead, how you work and build teams, how you are looking after yourself and your well-being, and how you are much more at choice. What do we mean by that?
Well, sometimes we can get a little caught in patterns in life and we can all be a little bit on our automatic pilot. So 4D Human Being is all about helping us get back to choice and being a four-dimensional human being. And your fourth dimension, of course,
is intention. So whether it's about your impact, your leadership style, your team dynamics, whether it's about your well-being, whether it's about your communication or your presentation skills, anything that involves human beings interacting with other human beings, 4D Human Being are here to help.
we're going to take a deep dive and look at some tools, insights, theories that are going to help you go from a 3D human doing to a 4D human being so that you can happen to the world rather than the world simply happening to you.
I like the IT help desk, Phil. I mean, I don't know what's happened to you. I mean, talk about
A change in personal profile.
evidence for a change in personal profile. Right here, Phil. Like, right here.
I just did sound.
You did. You even pressed record on my phone.
Yeah.
You're like first
Laura
director.
and Andy, watch out.
You're like first director, floor manager.
Yeah. Very similar.
And writer.
Very, very similar. Right, I'm getting all very busy. Okay.
Well, first of all, I have to say about the stripes, Phil. I'm loving the winter.
The winter stripes.
Yeah, we've gone full stripes today.
Yeah.
Loving the winter.
It's all right.
I'm
It's all
sorry.
right when the sun comes out.
Well, I'm sorry for the people who suffer from the sad, which is a thing.
It is a thing. It is a thing. But the sun is just coming out today. We walked in rain, and now now it's sunny. I'm just going to pull that blind down actually because it's so sunny now. Can you believe it? There we go.
Very nice.
It's all about environment. So,
Well,
personal profile, episode 2 of this series. This is the 2 that we're doing.
yes, before we dive into
Yeah.
it though, I just have to say I went to a reunion last night, which I'm going to possibly mention throughout the episode today. It was a reunion of the company that I spent most of my time in before. Obviously, I run 4D Human Being with you, the Walt Disney Company, and I haven't seen some of those people for 20 years
Yeah.
now. And it was a really good reference point for your reputation
Yeah.
and your profile.
Yeah. And
People
what-
I hadn't seen for 20 years,
Yeah.
and you walk in a room and they respond in a certain
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
So I might talk about that. It was fun.
that's so interesting, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
how do people respond
When they haven't
when you
seen-
walk into a room? And I think it was Matt. I don't know if it came from another company kind of mission statement or something, but I think it's in many of those books around kind of influencing and impact. Delight your customers.
Yes.
And when you walk into a room, do people respond with delight
I have
or nothing or
Who are you?
or who are you? Or oh no, you know.
I have to say, Phil. I mean,
Did you get a lot of
not to blow my own trumpet?
blow
or
it, Pen,
anything.
blow it. Come on, we'll have a trumpet, Laura. Okay, this is the pen blowing a trumpet
I
sound
am a
effect.
secret trumpet blower, Phil, aren't I? People think I'm quite humble, and I don't know if I am.
Yeah. But there's a sort of paradox, isn't there? Because you blow your own trumpet in the humility and humbleness of your own home.
Yeah, that's right.
or now the podcast.
That's right.
But there's only 2 of us here, Pen. No one will know. No one will know.
Well, there was quite a bit of Penwalla going. Delight, Phil.
Delight.
But I felt delight as well.
Yeah.
But maybe one needs to not see people for 20 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Maybe 2 hours every 20 years.
You can be
You
delighted.
can be delighted. But we can all be delightful for 2 hours, can't we?
Totally.
Every 20 years. It's harder to be delightful
It was
every day.
so fun. I have to say, it was so fun.
That is a good point, though. That
If I saw them every night of the week, would I get the same level of delight?
Well, there is something here, isn't there, about daily, long-term delighting that is different. It's like being in a relationship. Whereas, if you go to a dinner party or you go to a party or you get introduced to someone's friend and you go, I totally, my new best friend, totally love that person. You've met them for about half an hour.
Yeah.
And you've got the absolute tippity tip top of the iceberg. And of course,
Yes.
We're all many things.
Well, the other thing I'm going to say, which we'll put a pin in for another time, Phil, is because we talk a lot about how our brains actually work versus how we think they work. And I worked in this organisation for well over a decade, and it was hard work. I mean, as lots of jobs are, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of pressure. And there were moments of fun. And I have to say, in the sort of 2 or 3 hours last night I spent with these ex-colleagues, what did we talk about? We talked about the fun.
Yeah.
That was the sticky stuff. Nobody spent 3 hours talking about all of the deadlines, pressures that we had to deliver. Which, if I was being rational, I would say that probably took up a much bigger proportion of my time. That's not what we spoke about. We spoke about the off-sites, the times in the pub.
And it's what people remember. And actually, that's a really good segue.
Hey!
Sock it to us, Laura. Into why bother with personal profile. You've got deadlines to meet, you've got targets to hit, and actually people don't remember those. And we were also talking about, and also kind of coaching people and talking to people who feel a huge level of stress, high degree of anxiety, low levels of happiness, and it's all about targets and delivery and really losing that human touch. We've talked about AI. There's even more reason now to become more of a communicator, relational connector. And also, and we were talking about this as well this morning, that with technology moving so quickly, if you invest all of your identity in the thing that you're doing. Yeah. So, for example, if you'd have invested all your identity in Kodak or, making film or VHS tapes or whatever it might be.
And that was the most important thing. What you'd contributed to that.
That was the most important thing. Selling those things or whatever, or marketing those things, whatever it was. And you lose sight of the shared purpose, what it is to be human, to drive with meaning and connectivity, then suddenly VHSs and camera film for everyday use, most people, doesn't exist anymore. It's like Blockbuster. And all of that meaning has now gone. Yeah. And what are you left with? Totally. And it's sort of what you experienced at Disney. I mean, Disney's a good example of an industry that does not look like it did when you worked there.
Absolutely does not look like it did 20 years ago. I mean, if you think about the distribution of TV and film versus when we were younger.
We had 2 paper cups and a piece of string, didn't we, Pen?
Exactly.
And one of those Victorian flip books to get pictures moving.
And if my legacy was all about some amazing sort of process or spreadsheet I'd created in order to be able to analyse the data, it would be so beyond redundant today.
Yeah, that's right.
But of course, the legacy is not that. The legacy is the relationships, which is great.
The legacy is the relationships, and also
how people felt working
with you, and also the collective curiosity and moving into the next phase of life.
Yeah, and everyone's in that next phase.
We're all in the next phase, and actually. But this is so relevant to what so many clients are asking us to do at the moment, is shift that mindset into curiosity, into sort of stepping into innovation, press refresh. And who do you want to step 1 step, 2 steps, 10 steps, 20 years steps into the future with? Not the people rowing backwards and holding back and going, this is going to be too difficult. This is, this shouldn't be happening. We should go back to. You want to be rowing with the people who are going, let's see, shall we? Yeah, you want to come and have a look? Totally. Let's go. Uncomfortable, risky, let's do it anyway. I'm with you.
And that is based on how you feel when you're around them. It's not based on an Excel spreadsheet they create.
Well, exactly. Because everything is new all the time. We've been talking to clients about this. We've got no evidence of whether or not that person has got your back when or it's going to work. No, we've been talking a lot about.
It's so true.
Yeah, because we've got no evidence for it. But
how do you know someone's going to be good at
AI prompting or what you don't know exactly? And actually, we've been talking with a lot of clients now. This is a bit of a side note. We will definitely come back to this in the new year about storytelling. And actually, with what's coming, the story visioning version of our storytelling model, the story loop, is much more relevant at the moment because you don't have case studies to call back to. You've got to create visions of this is what it's going to look like. How exciting.
Do you know, it's really interesting you say that, Phil, and we will get onto the topic. But one of the people I saw was my dear, lovely, wonderful ex-boss, Giorgio Stock, who has definitely moved into a whole new sort of part of his life. and he's sort of working in the wine industry. And you know the first thing he said to me about this wine that he's sort of developing? He said, Penelope said, it's all about narrative. Wine is all about narrative.
And you're like, and you don't mean the narrative that people spin after they've had a few glasses.
And I just thought, it's so true.
Yeah.
We talk about storytelling and narrative so much.
Yeah.
And there's literally not an industry or product or experience in the world where it's not all about the narrative.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It's absolutely right. So before we start, I really want to mention a quote that strangely I heard this morning and I thought was so spot on for this topic. And it's attributed to a peace pilgrim, so it's anonymous. And this is the quote: "Life is like a mirror. Smile at it and it smiles back at you." And I love that because it really is saying you sort out your own personal profile. You sort out your own personal profile, your own position, and you decide what you put into the world. And that is then how you'll experience the world. And that really speaks to what we talk about with your personal profile, is that when you really get conscious of the story you're telling and putting into the world, guess what? Your world changes, your experience changes. It's related to that quote, isn't it? That we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And the other thing that I see a lot of is that we imagine ourselves to be sort of one thing, the sort of driving head of a sales or whole organisation, success. And then we lose sight of, I'm a bit frightened, or I'm going to miss that person now they're leaving, or we just lose sight of all of the, or I'm excited. We lose sight of joy or excitement. So we lose sight of these other things.
So maybe let's talk about how we can...
Well, my humdinger wasn't actually the quote. So here's...
Oh my goodness.
No.
I thought that was a humdinger.
No. Here's the hummy ding dong, right? Of why should we bother? Now, take a breath, everyone. We already are online so much of the time.
Yeah.
We already live in a world where CCTV cameras could be filming you at any time. We live in a world where people talk about you even if you don't think that they do. We live in a world where anybody, anytime in public could be filming you on your mobile phone. We live in a world where we don't actually quite know if our technology in our house is filming us. And we live in a world where a very well-known brand of sunglasses already done this. We've got sort of Google glasses, but they've already done prototypes of within a pair of glasses. So if you see anybody wearing Ray-Bans, just
watch out.
Just pause for thought, because this technology is only going to increase. Now, phones, you might be able to see someone lifting a phone up opposite you in the train carriage. You might think, are they watching that or are they filming me? So you might be able to notice that. With a pair of glasses, less so.
Yeah.
And these glasses, yes, they can have all the sort of floating screen in front of your eyes, and you and I could share a screen. We'll both have the same screens with our glasses, but also I could just press record. Now, what's interesting about this is we talk about the evolution of consciousness. And of course, our thinking from history and from everything that we've done and come from is that the evolution of consciousness comes from the evolution of our inner selves and our philosophy, our understanding and our growth. We live for longer, more wisdom, collective wisdom, etc. But of course, there's an argument for, if we don't know...
Well, there was an argument for what even is the inner self. But anyway...
exactly. But if we are potentially being captured on camera at all times... which self are we going to bring to the world?
How conscious do we want to be?
How conscious do we want to be? And of course, from a 4D... Now there's a dystopian piece to this, of course, where we're like, oh, does that mean we can't just have a bit of a rant in...
So pretending all the time.
Pretending all the time. Or becoming more intentional all the time. Which is an interesting one.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean necessarily never saying I disagree with you and I'm not happy about that. But it might mean not being like a raging toddler.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to put that in. Yeah. I want to put why bother with your personal profile in the context of where we are.
And just to go back to my Disney reunion last night, my equivalent of this back in the day before all this technology.
Yeah.
I said to somebody last night, because we were talking about, we've all got grown up or teenage kids now, and the fact that that everything's being filmed and everything's on TikTok. And I said, look, my equivalent of this is somewhere in the Disney office in London, there is a dusty VHS in a cupboard somewhere of me standing on a desk singing karaoke that probably will never be seen again.
Yes.
That's my equivalent.
Yay to VHS.
The world has changed.
The world has changed. That's right. The world has changed. It's like we had these sort of little buckets that you had to sort of pay to get to have a look at. And now there's just one big bucket and everything can go in it. Exactly. It's so true. So why is personal profile important? Well, I'm giving the extreme example of, we could be being filmed at any time. And as I say, there's a whole kind of moral and ethical debate about that. But point being, we are living in a world where, if we think about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, where you might go to work, shut the door in your oak panelled office and see one or two people who, come and, I don't know, take notes for you or whatever it is. Like that, so few people.
Yeah.
In terms of how your personal profile is spread. And if we think about how quickly your profile is spread now, it's like wildfire.
Yeah.
So, and it all starts with us. And we talked about that in the last episode. So in this episode, we're going to give a couple of practical tips. We're going to talk about our 4D on-demand personal profile program, which has got a huge suite of tools in it. And we're going to touch on judgment as well, the other side of things.
Yeah.
So
I think maybe let's start, because we did promise in the last episode, we would start with beneath the iceberg in terms of the self-talk that we have. So imagining
who we should be.
Yeah. That really sits on top of the narrative that we have inside of our heads, which could be something like, I should be more successful, or I should
be nicer all the time.
Yes, or it might be a narrative that, I'm an imposter, I'm not very good at this, whatever it might be. Now, of course, it might be a narrative that's very balanced and healthy and positive. Lots of us have got both sides of that narrative, and because of our negative bias, generally speaking, a lot of us have got more skewed to the negative in terms of that self-talk. And we can think about that in terms of the beneath the iceberg part of our personal profile, because everything else sits on top of that in terms of how we walk into a room, how we behave, how we speak, what people think of us. So if we think about that inner narrative, we have a wonderful tool that we use called the Neural Reframe.
Yes,
and
indeed.
It's called the Neural Reframe for a really good reason, because you are firstly reframing something in a very different way, consciously, but secondly, because it is neurally changing how
building different pathways.
Yeah. So when we think about that sort of subjective, quite negative self-talk, we want to flip it into a more objective, positive self-talk that's much more about being objective, looking at facts, future looking, and what have I learned, rather than self-critical.
And still truthful.
Yeah.
Still absolutely truthful.
Yeah.
So if we go through the Neural Reframe, we'll do a kind of quick version of it on this podcast. As I say, the full suite of tools is on 4D, the 4D website, 4D on demand. I'm going to say it right here, right now. It's Friday. This we're recording, so that we're on the, where are we? The 14th.
Yes.
On the 14th of November. I think this will come out in a couple of weeks. On this Sunday, 16th, I think it is it? Our new website launches. So not only has the website and 4D On Demand got a really fabulous new look, great navigation, AI teaching mentor, your 4D in your pocket 24/7, bite-sized modules, you've got note-taking, progress tracking, certificates, like on it goes. And you've got a free level. One of the big things is you can click to buy now. So for a long time, we've only used it within our client base, but now you can buy it. You can become a 4D
OD's going
member.
global.
It's going global. So all of these tools are on there. So to give a quick grabbable version of the Neural Reframe, this also ties in with who's driving the bus. Is your emotional self or your intentional self driving the bus? And this tool also does that. Reframes things mentally so you can shift from the emotional reactivity into an intentional thinking process and self-thinking, self-narrative. So anytime that you find yourself saying, oh, I'm rubbish, I'm not good enough at that. People think I should have, why didn't I? Or shame has overtaken you. That this is a really useful tool, even for something as deep as shame or guilt, where, you might want to do some longer term work on that, but this is going to help you. Have a vent if you want to, but vent it.
To the right person.
Or on your own, or in the woods or wherever you want, or in your own home, but get it out. I would offer you get it out. 2 minutes punch a pillow. But that internalization of those feelings and that narrative is tight. So I would definitely offer you get it out, like release it. 2 minutes.
And like I said, being cautious who you are
definitely if you're
to, because obviously this is why we're talking about this, because perhaps too often we allow that or parts of that to escape verbally, and then that is shaping our profile.
And what's important to say about this is you may well feel justified. You may feel that you're right. You may feel that it's fair. You may feel that the other person is totally in the wrong. That might actually be true. And when you start venting or gossiping and being negative about someone else, sadly, this really will reflect on you more than you realise. Yeah. Yes, it might make someone else think, yeah, no, you're right, that person is awful. But actually, what's going to be a stronger impact is that you are a person who gets really wound up, feels a lot of anger and wants to talk about how difficult other people are. So this is so important for you internally and externally. So as Pen said, if you're going to vent it to someone else, choose your trusted confidant very, very carefully. They must have hermetically sealed
confidence wall.
Confidence.
A quick word from us at 4D Human Being. If you're enjoying the show, please do click follow so that you can have the 4D Human Being podcast instantly in your feed. And we'd love it if you liked and reviewed us. Let us know what you think.
Please do think of 1 or 2 people that you could share the 4D Human Being podcast with. Somebody who would really benefit from the content you're listening to right now.
Back to the show.
Well, exactly. So once you've done that, great. Now, done. The emotion's been vented. Now you're going to strip it out. What are the facts? I saw Bob at 2:00 on Thursday. We bumped into each other on the corridor. We discussed the next marketing initiative. Bob thought that we should be launching it in the summer. I felt we should launch it in the autumn. Bob had already spoken to Deirdre about it.
Who are these
people? I had not been copied into that email. Right. Facts. Those are facts. Which the previous one would have sounded. I hate Bob. And now he's written to Deirdre.
He's trying to stab me in the back.
I don't know why Bob's American. I'm escalating. I can't work with him. Right. So that would have been the first one. The second one, I've just noticed how our graphic equalizer sound has gone off the Richter scale. So the second one is pure facts. And you want to really watch yourself. If anybody left a meeting, they didn't storm out.
Yes.
They walked out 5 minutes early. Or they went out quickly 5 minutes early. Fine. But facts. This is really important, this stage in this process, because this is really calming down your amygdala and it's really engaging the two halves of your brain. We're shifting across that corpus callosum. It's simply facts. We're getting your prefrontal cortex back online. It has to come back online because you are asking it to give you facts. We cannot tell you how important that is. Yeah. The main problem with dysregulation and irritation and anger, and therefore becoming who you are, is that your prefrontal cortex has gone offline. Yeah. So this is a great way. If you have to write it down, was it 2:00, 3:00? The confusion. You've got to break through that confusion, get the facts. Right. Once you've got your facts, now you can move to stage 3.
So you'll start asking yourself a series of questions, and this is all within our Neural Reframe tool, which you can find within our 4D On Demand Personal Profile series. So in what we would call the right-hand side of our Neural Reframe tool, we will ask ourselves questions such as, what was I pleased with? What worked? What might I do differently next time? What did I learn? What do I know about myself? Those kind of questions that are very much talking about the positive side of the conversational meeting, what I might have learned and what I might do differently next time. So it's much more taking ownership, taking control, learning from it, rather than absolutely berating ourselves or berating the other person, which is often always less useful.
Yeah, and there's always something you can find. So what was really useful about that conversation with Bob outside the elevators was we really flushed out what was going on. I was really pleased that we agreed to follow up and have another conversation and schedule another meeting. What I learned was Bob and I need to speak much earlier on about what we both expect and who we think is running and where the Venn diagram of who's doing what comes in. What I know about myself is that I can move through my difficult feelings, and I absolutely can reconnect to my intention of wanting to make this work. Yeah. I feel very, very strongly about succeeding together.
Yeah, and I will say on this that, of course, we can use this in many ways in terms of narrative. We can use it around conflict. We can use it relationally. The reason we have it in our personal profile series, and the reason we're talking about it today, is not necessarily around conflict management. What it is around is understanding that the way you talk in your head about other people and situations and yourself is building neural pathways in your brain. It's building beliefs in your brain about who you are and who other people are. And then that will lead you to behave and speak in certain ways about yourself and other people. And that is building your reputation in the outside world. So it absolutely starts with how you talk to yourself. Absolutely. It's the absolute starting point. And we can be quite cruel to ourselves. Yeah. And this tool is just it's been an absolute game changer for me, I have to say. And it's not that those, sort of catastrophizing or self-critical thoughts don't still come to us. It's the speed with which we can just realign and use that reframe to flip it. And it's a game changer in terms of your regulation, how you feel about yourself, how you speak about yourself, what you feel is possible. It's just a game changer.
Yeah, and so all of this is about narrative. And we cannot reiterate that enough. Narrative, narrative, narrative. And it all starts with what you believe in your head. So moving on from the reframe tool is a really lovely one that sits in that similar territory but is really grabbable, which is about creating that bridge from your internal narrative, what you believe about yourself in a more positive and truthful way, and how you start bridging that to the narrative, the profile, the reputation, the brand that's out there in the world. And this is called 3 words.
Absolutely love this. And I will reference, before we dive into this, Carla Harris. If you look her up online, she is an incredible businesswoman, and she talks about sort of the pearls, if you like, and she talks about and she demonstrates this tool absolutely brilliantly and talks about how game-changing it is. And what the 3 words is about, it's that next step above the iceberg of recognizing the words that are coming out of your mouth when you're perhaps talking about yourself. So it might be in an introduction or in an interview or something like that, but it might also be when you're talking about a project that you're delivering or having a conversation with a team. Really getting conscious of the type of language that you're using, particularly perhaps the adjectives that you're using. It's gone full doggy crazy. So particularly, in fact, the adjectives that you're using. And we're often not aware of the language that we're using. It can be quite sort of pattern-based, can't it? And some of us can be quite self-deprecating and think that using sort of strong adjectives is too much. Yeah. So just first of all, notice what words you're using. And then the 3 words is about choose 3 words that you would love people to use about you when you're not in the room. Because as we always say at 4D, whether you like it or not, lots of the really big decisions in your career will be made by people when you are not in the room. So what 3 words would you love people to use about you? Now that might be inspiring, talented, courageous. Carla Harris particularly chose tough, which I quite like. It might be
energy, creative. They're often ones I use.
Whatever those 3 words are. And start using those words in your vocabulary when you're talking about yourself particularly, but also when you're talking about other people in your team, because you are neurally programming other people's brains. Those are the words that they will associate with you. Yeah. And I think lots of us think that we are either not something or that we have to massively change our behaviours to be something. I think we might be surprised how much we're influencing people's beliefs about us simply through the language that we're using.
I think this was one of the very big turning points in my own life, was understanding that the language that I use and the story that I tell will start shaping my reality. And it sounds a bit...
start shaping your reputation.
And reputation. And it sort of sounds a bit kind of, you sort of think, really? It's just word. But it absolutely is true. And as you said, Penelope, you can use this explicitly, and you can, without, if you feel you're a bit humble, you don't want to be too like, well, I'm somebody who, you can you can sneak it in at the beginning of a conversation or a meeting or a presentation. Very easy. You know, as someone who loves working with energy, creativity, and a go for it attitude.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this project. You just slip it in almost as a byword. Like it's not really what I'm talking about.
You just put your card on the table.
You've just put your business card on. This is what it's like to work with me.
Yeah.
And the other way, of course, is, Bob, I'd love you to get involved in this project. I think it's going to be a really super energized team. They are absolutely spilling over with creativity. And you know what I love about them? They've got a real, we can do this, go for it attitude.
And you also might want to go into that sort of tougher space as well. I mean, lots of us, I think, feel like perhaps we don't get our voices in the room or we're not taken seriously. So using those words like, I'm someone who takes tough decisions.
Yeah.
You don't have to say I'm a tough person,
That's
but I'm
right.
someone who takes tough decisions and I'm very happy to stand my ground. And, using those kind of words or one of the reasons I'm in this job is because it involves a lot of tough decisions or we need to be quite powerful about how we move this forward.
I'm happy to lead through challenge. Great. Lovely.
And people go, ooh.
So start playing with it, pick your 3 words, and of course this can be used verbally, and of course it can also be used on your hashtags, social media, your LinkedIn profile. You really want something in that first line of any social media profiles to have some kind of meaning words about who you are, not just what you do. Remember, what you do is going to be obsolete. Your reputation is going to last.
That's your legacy.
Yeah, hashtag your legacy. Okay, I want to talk about one more thing on that, which is diminutive language. I just want to pop this in.
One of my favourite
in fact,
things.
I just want to pop this in. There it is. Because
I think
it's catching. That there's lots of stuff around this on the internet. Notice what you do. I'm going to reference our Chancellor. Rachel, if you're listening, please get in touch. I'm doing it now because I'm trying to think of the right words, but the ums, the ahs, the little filler words, the jolting way that you speak. I don't know if somebody like Rachel Reeves realises how much that has dictated how people feel. We were in an audience of a political podcast the other night, and we were all asked to put our hands up about how we felt if the manifesto was broken. Would people be annoyed? Barely anybody put their hand up, because I think people are saying we need to fill this budget hole. We need to get things solved. We need to get things solved. We need to tax. That's how a lot of people feel. And the reason that we don't feel comfortable or confident,
we don't feel held,
is because of the so your profile absolutely depends on the language that you use and also how you speak. So I really wanted to put that in, because it's all very well if you said, well, I'm somebody who's I'm creative. If it's being put in, I think we should just be a bit more creative. So really watch those reducing language. It's a huge thing. Yep. There's loads more in our personal profile series. Go to oh my goodness, 40humanbeing.com. You've got all your internal profile, your physical profile, external. You've got everything moving up to being good to work with, using language, right into creating a powerful reputation, repairing a reputation that's been damaged, and then all of the online pieces, CV, blog, biogs, posts. There's loads more. So check that out. A profile with purpose, finding meaning. Exactly. So that is ready to buy. Woohoo! Online. I'm so excited about that. Before we go, and before we finish this podcast today, we must go back to what we mentioned around judgment. And I think actually we'll do a whole podcast, maybe 2, maybe 3, on judgment, because it's such a topic that comes up again and again, and something that in workshops and in programs that we run, it's and coaching particularly, what we think people are saying about us, judgments that we think people will have, really has an impact, and usually negative. Like we're not usually thinking, people are saying amazing things about me. We have that negative bias. We worry that our profile is not positive and that people are judging us. So here's 6 things to think about on judgment. And then I think we will come back to, the idea of human judgment and what it does to us. Okay, firstly, people are thinking a lot less about you than you think. That's just the truth. They are judging and thinking a lot less about you. They're usually thinking about their own impact themselves.
Yeah.
Secondly,
if they're going to do it, they're going to do it anyway. So all of that worry and concern and ruminating and anxiety around judgment and what people might be saying, if they're going to do it anyway, you really don't have any control over it. Thirdly, when people judge, it's usually saying more about them than it is about you. In psychotherapy, of course, that's called projection. We can often judge the things in others that we don't like in ourselves. So that's quite a nice way to reframe it as well. It's usually other people's stuff that they're judging you about. It's often not even yours. Number 4, we create so much narrative in our heads. We are the most amazing storytellers when it comes to judgment. And it exists so much more in our head than anywhere else in the world, in conversations, or in other people's heads. We are narrative creators. So take a moment and maybe think about, almost like you could think about a set of scales that's very unbalanced, or you could think about like a pie chart or a pizza. And if you create a tiny slice of the pizza and you put a tiny weight on one of the scales, that's about how much of this may actually exist in the world in terms of judgment about you. And on the other side, the massive most of the pizza, the most of the weight on the scales, that is how much is simply in your head, that is just torturing you and doesn't even exist. So always good to remember that. Number 5 is, of course, we can work on our own ego. We can stop wishing that the world would stop judging us, or somebody, a parent or a family member or a colleague stops saying the same things, or judging us around the same issues or whatever it might be. And we can just work on our own ego. We can get our ego into such a healthy state that it stops getting under our skin. We can get our egos into a place where we go, okay, that person thinks that I'm too direct. Okay, that's how they feel. For me, this is where I needed to be in this project. So do your own work, get your ego healthy. That will change your experience of yourself, and you really will worry so much less about what other people think, because it's not getting under your skin, it's not getting in. And finally, number 6 is, of course, we all judge. You judge, I judge. So one of the things we can do is, rather than worrying about what other people are saying and their judgment, we can check in on our own and maybe take a moment and think, when I think that person's mean and I go and talk to someone else about that person being mean, is that me being mean about somebody I think is mean? We can catch our own judgment. That is something you can absolutely control. So if you want to diminish judgment in the world, you can start with yourself, because you can totally control that. So that is a quick look at judgment. As I say, we will look at this in another podcast, and it's a life-changing topic to explore and get on top of and make some changes in. So those are your tips.
Yes.
It's all in your hands. Your story starts with you. Have a play with it. If you want people to speak about you in a different way, if you really want to take charge of your legacy, that lovely poem Dash, which is about,
we mentioned that
last time with the years on the gravestone and what's in the dash. You could write that dash. Yeah. You're writing that story. The next conversation you have, the next room you walk into, take a moment. What story are you telling physically and emotionally and linguistically?
Yeah.
It's in your hands. If somebody comes up to you and says, this is difficult, this is a problem, take a moment.
Yeah.
Don't join them. See if you can reframe right in that moment and become the person who can shift something into a possibility. And that is a profile and a brand that people want to work with.
And remember that even if you're very, very busy, dedicating a small amount of time to this is going to make all the difference. Because like Philippa said,
so true.
I'm afraid the tasks you're doing and delivering will probably be obsolete in 20 years' time, but your profile won't. And you want to be walking into a room in 20 years' time and other people's faces fill with delight at seeing you walk in the room.
It's been a delight.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the 4D Human Being podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Do take on board some of the insights, tools and tips, because every time that you try something new to get back to choice, you are making a vote for the you that you want to become. And I love that phrase, Pen.
I do too. And please do share this episode with somebody that you know would really benefit from the lessons and learnings we've been chatting about today.
And of course, if you're interested in more from 4D Human Being, do get in touch. We run workshops, trainings, online, in person, conference events and keynotes. We've got the 4D On Demand platform for your whole organisation. And we do have a free Essentials membership where anybody can sign up for absolutely free to access some of our insights, tools and tips. So do get in touch with us if you'd like to hear more. We cannot wait to hear from you and to carry on the conversation.